Welcome to the Watch for Next podcast. Hello, Maho. Oh, no, I'm doing good. How are you? I'm doing good. It was like, it's just, we were chatting beforehand. I am so excited to chat with you. Was so excited to see this book, The Experimental, because it's set in Venezuela. And I'm someone who grew up in Puerto Rico, who in the media that we consume in the 80s and 90s was a lot of times was exported from Venezuela. So I grew up watching telenovelas, having the same singers. They all used to come to Puerto Rico. And so it really brought me back to my childhood. I have Venezuela friends, and I was like, it's just like the sense of community and sense of culture that I watch. And so as we were talking about it, some similarities, some differences, I was so excited to chat with you to hear from your experience being in Venezuela and just what made you write this book and all the fun stuff with it. Tell us a little about yourself.
Okay, my name is Maria Jose, but I go by Majo. And everybody calls me Majo. I live in Venezuela. I was raised in Venezuela. I am a self-taught English speaker. What else can I say about me? I'm a huge fangirl. I love romance. I love movies. I love music. And yeah, I love books.
Yes. So let's talk about how did you become a reader? Okay, first things first. Let's talk
Okay.
about reading in life because we are bilingual. So we probably have taught the classics in Spanish and Spanish literature, but then there's also English literature and there's English books. And you're writing in English and you're writing for a dream publisher, which is Berkeley. I can see some parallels between us. For me, I grew up with both languages. I learned how to read in both languages, but discovered that reading in English was much more preferable for me. And I started reading a lot of the teenage literature at the time, which was like Sweet Valley High, the Babysitter's Club. And I just kept going with that way, as opposed to reading in Spanish. That was something that I ended up adopting later on. I did read the classics. I did read Gabriel Garcia Marquez. I did read some the Don Quixote. But for me, I tended to go towards English reading. But talk to us about your reading journey, because being bilingual, you have more options as a reader
Yeah.
to read.
Well, I didn't become a reader until I think, 14 years old.
Yeah.
I became a reader after I went to watch Harry Potter and the Order of Phoenix on movie theaters.
Mm-hmm.
I had never read like a Harry Potter book or any type of fantasy book. Like
Yeah.
I had read picture books when I was little, but that was it. And so we went to see that with my family, and I liked it so much back then when I was a teen that I just had to know what happened next. And I asked my mom, can I please get the next book? I didn't even read the whole series. I just read the last two books. I was like, can I please have the next book? And my mom got it for me and I read it. And I was fascinated by the fact that reading felt like watching TV on your head in your head.
Yeah.
So it it hooked me. And then I wanted to read the next book. And I think it came out that year. I don't remember
Yeah.
the year, but it came out that year that the fifth movie came. And I read that. And then it was like, okay, the series is over. I just read two books in my whole life. And the series is over. What do I read now? And I had a friend who was a big Harry Potter fan and a big reader. And she told me, maybe you will like the Narnia books. And she let me borrow them. Like she would take them to school. She would give me one. I would finish it. I would take it to her and she would give me the other one. There are 7 books. And I started going through the Narnia series, which actually became my favorite series ever. And I flew through them. Like I read them all in a week. I would just read a book in a day. And then I started going from there. Then I read Twilight. And this is how I went from reading in Spanish to reading in English.
Yeah.
I read Twilight, the first 3 books, I read them in Spanish. And then when Breaking Down came out, I was turning 15 and I have an aunt who lives in Houston. And for my teens, it's a big deal. It's a whole thing. Like you get a
Yes.
special gift. And this aunt sent me Breaking Dawn. Like it came out that year and she sent it to me, but it was in English. But I was
Yeah.
so obsessed with it that I just said, I'm going to read this. And I probably understood like 50% of the book. I didn't understand like all of it. But I said, I'm going to read this like this. And at that point in my life, I had already started, like I already spoke a little English. So it wasn't terribly hard for me, but I wasn't like super fluid yet. And I read that book And I realized that I wanted to keep reading in English because one, you get books faster.
Yeah.
And second, you don't have these lost in translation moments. Like you read what the author meant to say. For American authors or for English speaking authors, like if there's
Yeah.
a Spanish speaking author, I will read that book in Spanish because it's the way that it's supposed to be read.
Yeah.
But for books written in English, I decided that I wanted to read more books in English because then I would get to read exactly what the author said instead of like the translator's interpretation. But there's nothing wrong with translation. Like that's how we get more books. But being like a newbie learning English, I just wanted to get better at it. And that's my English journey. My reading journey started. I started as a teen, but then I became absolutely obsessed with books. And Twilight was like my first taste at romance. So I started reading like more paranormal books and then AA and then adult books.
Yeah.
And I haven't stopped.
You haven't stopped.
I haven't stopped.
So you're an e-reader. So how do you read on your phone? Like, how do you read? Like,
I prefer to read on my phone or on my tablet.
Okay.
First, because I read on my iPad now.
Yeah.
Just to not kill my eyesight. But I mostly read ebooks because we don't really have that much access to physical copies here in the country, unfortunately. And also because if there's a book that I really want to read, I can pre-order it and I get it the same day. I don't have to wait for shipping. I don't have to wait for anything.
Yeah.
But I do buy the physical copy. If I loved a book, loved it, I will buy a physical copy just to have it and to hold it and to smell it. But I mostly read ebooks on my tablet, on my iPad.
So talk to us about the process of going from reader to writer, because that's a jump. That's a different area. And then only write in Spanish, not really write in English, which is your second language, and getting published in a big five publisher. It's not just like your journey is wonderful to see because it's like you're coming from against odds and you're coming for like an actual publisher. Talk to them about how did you end up this writing journey?
Okay, so when I was 16, it all started. I'm 32 now, by the way. When I was 16, half of my life ago, I read Twilight.
Yeah.
So when I was reading Twilight, at that point in my life, I had only written fan fiction. Yeah, I was writing Jonas Brothers fan fiction because I swore I was going to marry Nick, which is also why I started learning English because I was going to marry Nick and he didn't speak Spanish. So obviously I had to learn English so we could communicate. But at that point, I was just writing fan fiction. And then I read Twilight and I loved it so much that I really felt like I wanted to write. I stopped writing fan fiction and started writing something original. And that was like the first time that I said, maybe I want to do this. This is what I want to do. I want to make other people feel the same way that I feel when I'm reading. And that's when I started writing. I remember that back then I would write in notebooks. Like I would just buy a notebook, 100 pages notebook, and I would just write an entire book, an entire story on there. I remember back then, books used to have like phone numbers for their offices in each country. I don't know if you ever have an Alfaguara book, a Planeta book.
Yeah. Yeah.
So at the back, it's an international publishing house. So at the back, they have all the phone numbers for their different offices. So there's like the Puerto Rico office, the Mexico office, the Colombia office, and there was like the Venezuela office. And I remember after I finished this story on this Cinderella notebook that I called them. I was like, how can I get this published? How can I send it to you? I wrote a book. How can I send it to you? It was in a notebook. And the guy was so nice. He was trying very hard not to laugh. I remember that. The guy was so nice. And he told me like I needed to type it into a Word document, at least. The book was terrible, but that was the first thing that I ever wrote. And then my friends read it. And then I kept going and I kept going. But back then I was still writing in Spanish. And I made the switch to English when I'm going to be super honest here, like why I did it. But I made the switch to English when I realized that there was no money, unfortunately, for this in the Spanish market, like in the Latin American market.
It is.
I mean, there is money because the authors do get paid, but it does not come close to what the US pays for books.
Yeah.
So if a Latin American publisher can pay you, if they pay you, because here, at least in Venezuela right now, there are mostly hybrid publishers and not the traditional publisher.
Yeah.
So if they pay you and you don't have to pay them, it's very low. It's, I'm going to give you $500 for your book and you should thank me for it. Well, I did my research back then, like I'm talking 10 years ago. And I saw that debut authors were getting paid, oh, it's a $10,000 advance. And I said, I have to switch. I have to do it because I just have to. And 10 years ago, it was still like, today, it is still like so crazy. A thought or a dream to be like, you know what? I'm gonna, from my little house in my little city, because I don't even live in Caracas. Like,
Hey, you're living in I was like, she lives in a town, like outside
I live in a town.
Caracas. You know, I
Yeah.
love this. I am so fascinated by this. I'm like, yeah, this is like you had against all the odds, and you're like showing up, being scrappy, and being like, you know what, this is happening, right?
Did it take 16 years? It did.
But it's fine.
It's fine. I know that book was not gonna get me anywhere like the book that I wrote when I was 16.
Yeah.
But the real journey started, I think around 2012. Wait, 2015.
Okay.
When I started thinking seriously about writing and I found a critique partner and I started being like, I want to do this. Like, I want to try this for real. So I started writing fantasy and I tried to do, what was it called? Pitch Wars? I think I tried to do Pitch Wars.
Yeah.
There were different programs, different mentorship programs that I tried to do. I didn't get into any of them. And then one day I was like writing a new fantasy book that like a shiny new idea that I had. And it was so complicated. It was set in Venezuela. That was the first time that I was actually setting something here, but it was fantasy. And it was so complicated that I lost all joy for writing. I was like, I don't want to do it anymore. This is so hard. Like the world building, the idea was super cool, but I just, like the writer I was 10 years ago could not have done that book. So I decided 5 years ago, I decided that I was going to write something for myself. I said, you know what? I just want to have fun. I'm going to write something for me. This was 2019. I'm going to write something for me. I'm just going to have fun with it. And that's it. So I wrote a story based on the initial spark of an idea for that story was when Shawn Mendes and Camila Cabello started dating. And everybody was saying like, it's PR. They have no chemistry. And that was the first spark of an idea. I said, what if it's actually PR? What if it's not real? What would happen? So I wrote this book about two musicians and one, like the girl, her name was Karina. She was very, like her reputation was very clean. She was spotless reputation, but she wasn't that famous. And then there was Levi, who had a horrible reputation, but he was basically Justin Bieber. In order to clean his reputation, his team comes up with the idea that he should date somebody with a very good reputation. And then these two start dating. So I wrote that, start fake dating. So I wrote that and I showed it to my friends. And my friends said, this is the book, like you should do this. It was the first time.
I need this right now.
It was YA too. It was YA. And they told me like, you should try DiviPit. I don't know if you remember DiviPit, like on Twitter. You should try DiviPit. And I hadn't finished editing the book. And my friend told me, it's basically done. You don't have to edit a lot. So submit it for DiviPit. And if anybody wants it, then you can just take a few weeks before sending it to finish it. And I said, sure, why not? And I submitted, like I did my Twitter thing for DiviPit, and I got a few agents interested in reading the book. And this friend that I'm talking about, she's one of my CPs and she's from Colombia. And she had found her agent the year prior during the visit while living in Colombia. And I said, well, if she did it while living in Colombia, like people do it. It's something that people actually do.
Yeah.
So I did the DVP thing and I had 4 offers of representation. I couldn't believe it. Whoa, this is beating the odds. I had 4 offers of representation and I went with my agent. Her name is Wen Bill. She's at UTA. And we went on stop with that book and it didn't sell. Like at that point, I had already done not the impossible because people are doing it. Yeah. But you talk about it and you say, like, she did the impossible. And we went on sub and that book died on sub. And then she told me, why don't you write something set in Venezuela? Because that book was set in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And she said, why don't you write something set in Venezuela? At that point, I was still writing YA. And I tried a few ideas and none of them stuck. I was watching Viviana Givelli's podcast on YouTube. Like she has a show on YouTube. And I was watching her interview Edgar Ramirez. I was just watching my thing. And the first spark of an idea came. I was like, what if this woman had a child? What would it be like to be raised by somebody like her? Like she knows so many people. She's so iconic. She's so beloved. What would it be like to be raised by her? So that was the first spark of an idea. And the second one was I was listening to, I don't know if you know them, Morat. They're Colombian. So I was listening to them and their love songs are so good. And I said, what if these people like gave love advice? Like they would be so good at giving love advice because I mean, they write great love songs, so that they must be good at giving love advice. And I kind of merged those 2 ideas. And that's how the Ex-Perimento came. Like the main concept for it. There's this woman who her mother is this public figure that everybody loves. And then something happens that she needs love advice from a guy in a band. And I started writing it. I was like so obsessed with the idea that I wrote like 20,000 words in a week or something. And I sent it to my agent. And she said, okay, just keep going and we'll see where this goes. I like this idea. I like where you go with it. Just keep writing it. And I did. And everybody that I sent it to, like my other CPs were like, also, we love it so much. It's so good. You should. And we think this is the book. Like several people told me, I think this is the book. I was like, I don't know. Maybe it is. It was another celebrity romance. And the main reason why the first book didn't sell was because it was a celebrity romance. Like I was told, I don't know if it's true or not, but
it changed. Market has changed because they're trending now with the Taylor Swift and stuff like that. So there's some celebrity stuff. It wasn't, I think when you were selling the market, because I've been doing this for 10, it wasn't at 5 years ago, it was not selling. It was like, I have friends who had died in submission or died even getting an agent represent because people were now buying the celebrity stuff. It has changed. Like we have some celebrities, we get a lot of Taylor Swift fan fiction that's been going on right now. So God bless it, but the market's fickle.
It is. The market is fickle.
Yeah.
It's not because I think
you can just repackage that book and see if it sells again. Maybe make them adult and have some spicy scenes.
I've thought about it.
Personally, when you were saying, I was like, I want that because it has the elements that we love. We got fake dating, we got religion, we got the bad boy, we got the good girl, we got opposites attract. I can sell that book in no time.
Yeah, I love that book. I have thought about it. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. But I think that when I got an agent, a lot of people say that publishing is a matter of timing and luck and having the right book when the right trend is going on. When on the queer trenches, it was during the pandemic and everybody wanted rom-coms. Everybody. Every agent wanted a rom-com because they just wanted to escape and they just wanted to be happy. So I was lucky enough to have a rom-com during that time.
Yeah.
And now I don't know if everybody wants to escape
Oh, we still want
There
to
are
skip.
countries.
We're still escaping. I think it's an equal opportunity. And 2025 has been an interesting year for everyone. So
It has been an
so
interesting
we're
year.
still
Yeah.
escaping. As I was telling you, so for listeners, this book, the Vice, I get 10. How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, around that area.
Mhm.
Divorce Prada, we got singing competition, we got like a swoony hero, and I was selling this book to my friends. I was like, you got to put this in the pre-order. Like it is the rom-com that we like. It is also set in Venezuela. It's also set in a culture that you probably have not experienced, and it gives you an insight. I love that the mother is a former Miss Universe, because as a Puerto Rican in Venezuela, we used to compete head to head for the Miss Universe title. This is an important thing in our culture. The Miss Universe, the pageantry around that.
Yeah. I made her like the most prolific person she could have
Yes.
been, while also making her kind of a washed out star. Because, like you were saying at the beginning, we don't get that anymore. Like, we don't get that type of content or TV anymore. So, people who are like iconic, they're
Yeah.
doing other things because the TV that they used to make, they don't make that anymore. So, they had to evolve with it. But I named Viviana after Viviana Given, in honor of her. We love you, La Guerra de los Sexos, and everything that she was in. We love her. She's iconic to us. Like, she's a national treasure.
Yeah.
I made Viviana Camacho, the mother. Like, I met her everything. She was the singer. She was an actress. She was Miss Universe. She was a model. She was whatever she wanted to be. She went and
That was the path. That was the path. Because I even went to school. I think I'll share with this. I went to school in Puerto Rico, and one of the girls I went to school who was like, her dream was to be a Miss Universe. Her dream was to do that. And you wouldn't think of it. Like, you were like, when you meet her, you're like, oh, okay. And she competed in 2005, I think, and didn't make it to the cut for Miss Puerto Rico. And then she competed again and waited to Miss Puerto Rico, and then actually made it to, I think she was second place in the pageant. And then after that, she's been an influencer. She's been in telenovela. Her accent does not sound like the same way I talk. They have cleaned up their, and they're doing all these different things. They're influencers. They have the stuff. Like, so it's a path. Like, it's our OG influencers. Let's use influencers on Instagram. Our OG ones were our Miss Universe. So our actors in our media.
Yeah, and they had to do everything, and you would go on to see them on a bunch of stuff, like talk shows, and you would
Like,
go to see them on any.
they'll make commentary on the Miss Universe pageant or any other pageant or any. They'll do fashion segments. There's another one. I watched Puerto Rican TV because I don't like American TV, and so in the morning show we got our OG Miss Universe from like the 1990s. She still does fashion commentary. She does like how to proper etiquette and how to do. They have modeling schools. They do all these different things to kind of like what you think of a beauty pageant. It's a viable career in Latin America. It is not a viable career in the U.S. But in Latin America, that was a career that people aspired to.
Yeah, and it paid off. Like,
Did.
it did.
All right, so let's talk some book recommendations.
Okay.
What type of books do you recommend our listeners to pick up?
I would say just pick up anything that you want to read without a care in the world. The romance genre sometimes is very looked down on. Is that I think that's the word. That's the way it's supposed to be said. And same as fantasy or romantasy or science fiction or anything. But for me, I'm not an intellectual reader, as in I'm not looking to learn when I read. If I learn something cool or if I find something interesting enough for me to read, as in to learn, fine, I will do it. But I mostly read for entertainment. I will read because I want to be happy, and I will read because I want to escape, and I will read because I want to laugh or because I'm bored. So I don't want something that will put me to sleep. So I read in a way that it's like, I don't care what anybody says when I read what I read. Like, I'm going to read romance and it's fine. And I'm going to read YA and it's fine. And I'm going to read a middle grade novel and it's fine, because that's what I feel like I want to read in order to feel entertaining, to be happy. Yeah. So just basically read anything you want to read. And within that scope, If you want to read romance, like my favorite romance novel of the last 5 years was You Deserve Each Other by Sarah Hobel. I loved that book. That was such a funny book. I can't wait for the movie, by the way, because when I first read it, I think it came out in 2020 or 2019.
Yeah. It came out during
But
it was before, around the pandemic time.
yeah, it wasn't around the pandemic. I read that book and I was obsessed with it. It's so funny. It is what a rom-com should be.
Yeah.
It is what a rom-com should be. If you're reading fantasy and you want to learn more about Venezuelan culture, I recommend reading Gabriela Romero La Cruz. She wrote a duology based on Venezuelan folklore, and it's so good. If you want to learn more about Venezuelan folklore, those two books are the books. If you're Venezuelan, it's gonna be so relatable. She has all the food. She has the monsters. She has a version of Simon Bolivar. She has everything in it. It's so cool. I met her, like, we've been friends for a while because we met through Pitchforks. And I was lucky enough to read like an early version of the book. And I just felt like the character, I just felt, and that's it. But she has Cachapa. She has El Silbón, which is a monster that we have, like a legend. It has everything. And it has romance. It has adventure. I can recommend it enough. It's so good. What else? If you like horror, there is a Colombian author. Her name is, it's my Colombian friend, but I also she's one of the best authors that I know. Her book is called Bochica. I don't personally like horror because I don't like to be scared. But I read the book and the book is so good. I only read it because I saw the backstage of it as she was writing it. And I didn't feel like he was possessed or anything. So that's how I read it. But it's so good. It's called Bochica. It's very Colombian. It has a gothic vibe. So I recommend that for anybody who's like looking to read horror, but also looking to learn a little bit about other cultures, other legends from those cultures too. History, because it has a bit of a historical element and a bit of a gothic element and a bit of a horror element. So it's a very good book. I loved it, by Carolina Flores de Chiaro. That book. What else? Well, I think that's it. I can recommend a lot of rom-coms because that's mostly what I read.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Emily Henry fan. My favorite, I don't know if you want to take my advice, because my favorite Emily Henry book is most people's least favorite, which is People on Vacation.
Yes, that's mine too.
So many people hate that book. I love that book. I think it's the best Emily Henry book. I don't understand the hate towards it, but I can't wait for the movie either.
It's a rom-com. I did an interview with them, actually, because Yulin King, the movie, and so she actually wrote, it's a rom drama. It's How to Write a Love Story or something like that. And Yulin King. So it's actually,
I know what book you're talking about.
They're both in a writer's room, and she thought he killed her sister. And they realized, but this really high concept, and you're like, how this is going to work. But it's so good. And so Yuli actually came on the show, and she was like in the process of scouting locations for people on vacation. And she was and talked about the process of even writing. I think she was writing beach reads as a writer and all this different things. So I'll link that for listeners who are like, want to go down the Emily Henry rabbit hole. Cool. But yes, people moving to vacation is so much fun. There's like traveling.
They're just traveling and being funny.
Yeah.
Because I love Emily Henry, and I have yet to read the last one, The Big Beautiful Life. I haven't read that one yet. But I read all the other books, and I love her. Like, all her books are 5 stars for me all the time. But I feel like she doesn't totally write rom-coms. She writes romance, but they're not always rom-coms. But People We Meet on Vacation does feel like a rom-com. Like, it's funny, it's swoony. It has everything. Like, that book feels like a rom-com, and I think probably Funny Story also feels like a rom-com to me. Yeah. I read Happy Place, and I was like, not making me happy. Yeah, I loved it. I loved it. but
Yes.
it did not make me happy. I was sad for most of it.
Yes, I understand. Well, tell us where you can find you online.
Well, you can find me on Instagram as Maria J Morillo, double L, author. Yeah, that's Maria. I never know how to.
Okay.
Maria J Morillo,
Yep.
Morillo, author. You can find me on Threads, same handle. Thank you. I had such a good time.
Thanks for listening to the What to Read Next. For more book lists, cozy reads, and library tips, visit the whattoreadnextblog.com. Your next great read might be waiting there.